Hey everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to my channel, and today is my special ovarian cancer video that I've been talking about in the last couple videos I've posted and also posted about on social media. As most of you here know, I am an ovarian cancer survivor, and I typically once a year like to have at least one video where I talk openly about ovarian cancer and to help spread awareness. Now, some of my past videos have been removed as my channel has gone through many different transitions over the last 2-3 years or so since I've had this and I've been actively posting on here. So some of those past ones are no longer up, but I do have some of my actual cancer vlogging videos where you can go through some of my ovarian cancer journey through the vlogs and videos I posted at the time I was going through it. Today I really wanted to host a question and answer. I was trying to think of something different that I hadn't done before, and this one seemed like a good one because I wanted to know what questions you guys have had. So those of you who follow me on BookTube, this may not be very interesting to you because obviously this isn't BookTube related. But if you want to learn more about ovarian cancer, or if you have followed my journey from day one on here, then welcome and thank you so much. I actually had about 30 or so questions that were sent in to me, mostly through like direct messages. So I was excited to have that many responses. I certainly did not expect that many questions to come through. I did consolidate some of these questions down because some of them were similar questions. So I just kind of combined and turned them into one question. And I'm also not going to name your name. So if you, had your name on it, don't worry, I'm going to keep this anonymous for you. Also, a heads up to anyone with little ears in the room or with children that you don't want to hear certain things. The last 3 questions on this list are going to be of a little bit more of a sensitive nature, as in like having sex and things like that. So you may not want them in the room. When we get to that part, I will give you a warning before we get there so that you are aware and can have them exit the room as we discuss. All right, so I'm going to jump in with the very first question. I tried to put these in order where it sort of made sense in the discussion, so it kind of goes chronologically, and we will go from there. Question number 1 was probably the most simple, and it was, tell me about ovarian cancer. And I've talked about this pretty openly on this channel, but basically ovarian cancer is cancer of the ovary. It is the top leading cause of female cancer deaths, and gynecological cancer deaths anyway, right now. And it's a very scary disease because there is no test for ovarian cancer. I think that's the reason why, for me, it's so important to get this awareness out there, is because we hear a lot about other types of cancers, particularly if you're a woman. You hear a lot about breast cancer and you hear a lot about cervical cancer. Everybody knows that, you know, when you hit 40, you get a mammogram every year. October, the world turns pink. You've got football players with pink socks and everything else. So I feel like breast cancer awareness is very prevalent. I also feel like cervical cancer awareness is very prevalent because most of us who go to a doctor every year get a pap smear. And so we hear about, make sure you get your pap smear. But no one ever talks about other types of gynecological cancers, not just ovarian, but other types of gynecological cancers. There's several out there. But with ovarian cancer in particular, it can mimic the signs of other types of cancer. And I, like most people, thought that a pap smear tested for all gynecological cancers. I didn't realize at the time that it tests for cervical and not for ovarian cancer. So I feel like it's a disease that doesn't really get a lot of recognition or a lot of talk. I mean, I live in the Chicago area and I watch Chicago news every single day, and I have not seen anything on any of our news channels about ovarian cancer. But I guarantee you in October, there'll be tons of segments on breast cancer because it's just a more well-known type of cancer. So that is why it's so important for me to talk about it on this channel as much as possible, because I don't want anyone else to go through what I've went through, or to at least have it caught early enough where you don't have, a severe stage of ovarian cancer. So ovarian cancer is cancer of the ovary. It's literally just a cancer of the ovary. It usually, when it does spread, it can spread mostly in the abdominal area. And there's many different types of it, which I did not know this. And I ended up having a rare subtype. My particular type was a rare subtype. Yay me. But yeah, that's basically what it is. Number 2 was, how did you find out you have cancer? Well, I actually have my first 2 or 3 videos on this channel. You can see how I found out I got ovarian cancer, but I had symptoms for many years that doctors misdiagnosed as other things. So the very first thing that I really noticed when I started not feeling well was I skipped my period. So all of a sudden I had been on birth control for years due to polycystic ovarian syndrome, and all of a sudden I was not having a period anymore. So I went to my doctor and she kept telling me that I was missing my period because my body had gotten used to birth control and because I was overweight. So she had changed dosages and changed types, and then all of a sudden I started getting really bad heartburn, and then all of a sudden I started getting like where I was full all the time, but I was still gaining weight. And then I started having trouble where I had to go to the bathroom all the time and I've constantly had to pee. And I was like, maybe I'm diabetic. And they tested me for diabetes. And then, I mean, just lots of random things. And then all of a sudden, when I moved to Indiana, I went and saw a doctor who was like, let's do a transvaginal ultrasound to see if you have any cysts or anything going on with your ovaries, because we know you have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And they found a cyst on my ovary, what we thought was a cyst. So she decided to monitor, change medications around, and we did that for several months, and she'd followed up and the cyst hadn't changed very much. And then she followed up again. The cyst had grown a little bit. And then by the time she noticed it had grown a little bit, I had such bad bloating that I literally would sit on the couch with my pants undone, and I would just be like sitting there with my stomach hanging out because I couldn't even get my pants buckled. And at that point, she was like, let's just go in and remove this. If it's a cyst, great, but let's rule out anything more serious than a cyst. And unfortunately, my biopsy came back that it was stage 1 clear cell ovarian cancer. So it's a really good thing she decided to remove it when she did. Question number 3 is, what do all the stages of cancer mean? So that's confusing too, because all types of cancer have different stages, and it depends on what type of cancer you have. For ovarian cancer, there are 4 main stages, and then on those 4 stages, you have grades. So my particular cancer was a stage 1C. So depending on the type of cancer you have, with ovarian cancer, stage 1 means that it's just confined to the ovary. Stage 2 means it's the ovary and, oh, hold on, I'm drawing a blank. It's the ovary and the abdominal area, like the uterus. And then I think stage 3 is like other organs outside of the uterus. And then I think stage 4 is anything outside of the abdominal area. So it lets you know how far your cancer has spread, basically. The further your cancer has spread, the more severe the disease is, and the less chances you have of full recovery and full survival. That's why a lot of people who are stage 4 are considered terminal, or they call it metastatic disease, meaning that it's spread outside of the original cancer zone. I was diagnosed as a stage 1, which is good, meaning mine was still confined to the ovary. But then there's also grades. So depending on how your particular oncologist grades it, it can be grade 1, 2, 3, or it can be grade ABC. My doctor does ABC, and that is how, what's the word I'm looking for? Not powerful. How aggressive, there we go, how aggressive your type of cancer is. So I have clear cell, which is considered a very aggressive type of cancer. So mine was a 1C, meaning that it's a stage 1 confined to the ovary, and a C because it's the most aggressive, or one of the most aggressive forms of the ovarian cancer that you can get. And again, this kind of helps the doctor know like how good your chances of survival are. For example, if you are a stage 1 survivor, your chance of survival, or stage 1 person, it's like 90+% survival rate. And if you are a stage 4, I forget what it is, but it's like, I'm wanting to say like 20 or 30% survival rate. So it's a big difference depending on what stage you have. Again, these are statistics, these are numbers. They don't mean that you are doomed because you have, I know stage 4 survivors that have been living for 10+ years as stage 4 survivors. It just depends on you and how you do with your treatment. Number 4 was a good one. How bad was chemo really? You know, I hate to say this. Everyone responds to chemo differently. So I feel like that's a hard question. For me, I don't feel like it was that bad. I definitely don't want to do it again. And I mean, if I had to, I would, but I don't want to do it again if I don't have to. It wasn't pleasant, but it also wasn't that bad. So mine was once every 3 weeks, I would have to go in for treatment, and it was always on a Tuesday. And the particular type of chemo I was on was called paclitaxel and carboplatin, which is or carbotaxol, which is the normal go-to chemo for ovarian cancer. And for me, on Tuesday, I would be infused. By Wednesday, I would feel like poop and I would be like nauseous and not feeling well. By Thursday, the bone pain would kick in, and that was always real fun because you just felt like you couldn't even walk. By Friday, I would literally just be exhausted and sleep the whole day, but by Saturday, I would feel better. And then by Monday, I was back at work. So when I was out for chemo, I would be out like Tuesday through Friday of the week of chemo. By the following Monday, I was back at work. And I would work the next 2 weeks and one day because I would work the Monday before chemo. And then I would be out another 4 days for the next chemo treatment. I had 6 treatments. It wasn't terrible. I mean, again, not pleasant, but not as bad as I was expecting. Because when you see it in the movies, you see like the uncontrollable vomiting and she's laying in bed looking like death and all that. And I didn't have that. But again, I have friends who have gone through chemotherapy where that is 100% their experience. I think it depends on your dosage, how your body reacts, how well your doctor can keep your symptoms under control. I will say that my very first chemo treatment, I have a video on here called Chemo is Hell, because that's exactly what it felt like. It was the most horrible thing, but my doctor was great. And he said, write down every symptom you have. I don't care what it is. I don't care how small it is. Write down every single thing you have happen to you that's a symptom, and we'll discuss. And he gave me like steroids to help with the bone pain and nausea meds to help with the nausea. And by the time I hit chemo 2, it was wonderful. He had all of my side effects under control and it ended up being fine. But again, not everybody has that. So for me, it wasn't that bad. And I hope that I never ever have to do chemo again. But it wasn't that bad for me. Number 5, how hard was it to lose your hair? So of all the things, I didn't care about losing my hair. And I feel bad because I realize that for some women, this is a really tough step for them because your hair is so important to you. But for me, I was like, I didn't care. I remember the day that I started losing it in chunks and my scalp was irritated from like a rash because the chemo actually caused a rash, which made the hair fall out. And I was so uncomfortable that I just was like, drive me to the nearest salon and I'm shaving my head. So I ended up going to Great Clips, which I don't know if all of them do this, but shout out to Great Clips in Northwest Indiana because this particular location shaved my head for free, which I am so appreciative of. And I was happy to get the hair off. I was in the shower trying to get as much out of my scalp because it was so uncomfortable as it fell out. You had hairs everywhere. It was itchy. I had the rash, which made it painful. And the more hair you got out, the more the pain went away. So I was like really happy to get my hair out. And again, I know that for most people, they'd be like, oh my God, my hair. And I was like, I truly didn't care. I just wanted it off my head so it didn't hurt. And then I actually liked not having hair. I mean, I didn't have to shave from January through like June. For 6 months, I didn't have to shave my legs or my armpits, like no shaving. And I got really good at drawing in my eyebrows, so that wasn't an issue. And I also went through chemo primarily in the wintertime, so I didn't have to worry about doing hair in the morning. I literally would do my makeup and then put a beanie on my head and walk out the door. I thought it was fabulous. And I actually really liked my hair short, but I'm not going to do the short old lady haircut until later on in life. But I didn't mind it. Number 6, what was the hardest part of cancer treatment? For me, the hardest part was, well, one side effect, the bone pain. The bone pain was probably the worst side effect ever. And being tired all the time, which then leads into question 7. Question 7 is, did cancer make you really tired? And was this something you noticed before treatment? Yes. So prior to being diagnosed, I had a lot of fatigue already, which a lot of times was not really necessarily, I don't know if it was the cancer, but more so the side effect of the cancer. So I was always in pain. I was bloated. I was having trouble going to the bathroom. I was having heartburn all the time. So I wasn't sleeping well. I was in a lot of pain, horrible cramps, just a lot of uncomfortableness. So I wasn't sleeping well, which I think is why I was tired. As far as like actually being caused from the cancer, kind of, because it was caused from the side effect. But the real being tired came from treatment. The chemotherapy makes you super fatigued, and that being fatigued lasts for several months after you finish your chemotherapy. Actually, for me, it lasted for a good year after chemotherapy ended. I was just so tired all the time. And really towards the last couple treatments of chemo, there were days where I could not get out of bed. Like I would just want to sleep the entire day because I was so tired. That's normal because that's just one of the side effects of treatment, at least for my particular type of chemotherapy. And I just learned to deal with it. But yes, very tired, very fatigued. And that was by far the worst, part of cancer treatment was just being tired. And even when I would go back to work like the following week, I would have a hard time because, I would work 8 to 5 and then I would hit that midday point and be like, I'm so tired, like so tired. And you couldn't take a nap because you had to work. So I would just come home from work and just crash, but I made it. But yes, I did get tired a lot during cancer treatment. Okay. Question number 8. Are you scared of the cancer coming back? Yes. I think everyone who's a survivor has that fear that it will come back. But over time, since I've been in the clear here for about 3 years, it has lessened, but it's still there. So every time I go see the oncologist, I just kind of want to poop my pants a little bit. And every time they order a CT scan, I'm always like super nervous that something's going to pop up. And I'm also scared of other types of cancers popping up. I think once you've been through it, it's just scary. Because I don't want to have to go through cancer treatment again. I'm not necessarily scared to go through the treatment again. I just don't want to go through it again. So yes, I think everybody is probably still scared of it coming back someday. Number 9, what side effects do you have after cancer treatment? The main ones I have is lymphedema. I had 17 lymph nodes removed during my cancer surgery. That was done to help stage the cancer and to make sure that it hadn't spread outside of the abdominal area. But one of the side effects of that is lymphedema, which means I do have my left leg and my abdominal area that swells up because your body cannot flush out the excess fluid. I think I still have a video up on my channel about lymphedema. If I do, I will link it up here so you can see more about that, but it's definitely uncomfortable. I will never wear cute shoes again. Dress shoes are out, sandals are out. I wear old lady support socks and have to sit in the Michelin Man suit, is what I call it. It was called a Flex-a-Touch machine. I like to call it the Michelin Man suit. Every night for the rest of my life, this is something I have to deal with, but I'm alive, so it is what it is. And then part 2, the second thing I have is I have neuropathy in my toes, and that is super uncomfortable. I cannot feel my toes. I can feel them slightly. Like I had a little bit of feeling that's came back, but it's very slight. So for the most part, I cannot feel my toes. So that's a side effect of chemotherapy, and it just is what it is. I have to be careful, obviously, with what shoes I wear. I don't walk around barefoot. I make sure I have toe caps on or something to protect my toes because I cannot feel them. And then the last side effect I have is one I will talk about later, but I do have like vaginal dryness and vaginal atrophy and things like that. But I'll talk about that more towards the tail end, where we can talk about that in detail without small ears present in the room. All right, number 10, how has going through cancer changed your life? It has changed my outlook on life. I don't take time for granted anymore. And for a while after I finished cancer treatment, I felt like I was in this rush to get things done. And I actually had to go see a therapist and have someone had to talk through it with somebody. But there was this life, and you realize how short life really is and how fast life goes by. And you begin to realize that If I want to accomplish things, I need to do them now and not wait because no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So I feel like it has made me really value the people I have in my life and value the time I have on this planet because, no one knows. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. And that's the thing that going through cancer really taught me. And then also just to be proactive in my health because I fought for a year and a half to get diagnosed with this. I mean, I didn't know it was going to come up being cancer, but I didn't feel good for a year and a half to almost 2 years before someone found that I had cancer. And I'm really grateful and so blessed that my cancer was still stage 1 when it was found because I had fought for so long and I didn't feel good for so long, but I kept trying because I was like, something is wrong. They're not listening to me. Something's wrong. And because I kept pushing, it ended up being found. So be your own advocate for your health and keep pushing because don't take no for an answer. If you don't feel good and you think something's wrong, push for an answer because you don't want to not push and then have it be a bad outcome. All right, number 11, what are you doing to keep the cancer from coming back? There's really not much you can, there's not much you can do to keep the cancer from necessarily coming back. That's the thing with cancer. If they knew what caused cancer to happen in the first place, I mean, other than like smoking causing lung cancer or something like that, then I think that, we would have cures to cancer already. So there's not really anything you can do necessarily to keep it from coming back. The couple things that you can do to kind of help your chances, which don't look at me as an example of this, but like eating healthy and being a healthy weight and exercising and just keeping your health in general as healthy as possible. But there's really nothing you can do to keep, it's ovarian cancer. If it comes back, it comes back. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You can do research online. There's studies that, you eat greens or you eat more vegetables or you become a vegan or cut out dairy, whatever. I mean, there's a million different studies and opinions out there. But for me, I'm just living life and doing the best I can with it. So there's not really anything I can do to keep it from coming back. All right, okay, these are the last 3, okay? This number 12 is not that risque, but number 13 and 14 are definitely a little bit risque. So if you want to start ushering the children out of the room at this point, so this is where the questions might get a little bit where you don't want small ears to hear. 18 plus, please. Okay. So this one's kind of tame though. So if the children are still packing up their things, you're good. So number 12 is, how has ovarian cancer changed your dating life? Number 1, I don't really date, but obviously if you were dating, I'm already getting kind of old, but I have some friends who are younger than me who are still in the dating pool who have ovarian cancer. It changes for a couple of reasons. 1, I obviously can't have children anymore. So if I'm dating someone who is still wanting a family. I'm 39, so I feel like whoever I would be dating would be like close to their 40s or in their 40s. So I feel like that wouldn't really necessarily be an issue for my age range. But if I got diagnosed at 35, so I mean, if I was dating somebody at 35, then this would have been a conversation of, I can't have children, right? So, I mean, if you're of a marrying age and you have a guy who wants to have a family with you, that's going to be a major discussion. I feel like it doesn't really affect your dating life until you reach that point in the conversation. I mean, obviously I'm not going to be like, it's our first date. How do you feel about kids? Not appropriate for the first date, but it is something that would come up in your dating life. And then I think the other obvious one would be, when you reach the intimate stage of the relationship, because things are different because you're in menopause and you've had surgeries and you have scars and you have things that are not quite the same down there. So I think that obviously is also a discussion that you would have to have when you reach that point in the relationship about, being intimate and what that would look like at that particular point. All right, number 13 kind of follows that question. And this one, I can't really give you much advice on, but I'll tell you what I know. Number 13 is, can you have sex after ovarian cancer? Obviously, yes. Everything is still there. You still have all the parts. I personally am a single unmarried person, so I am not doing any of that. Not doing any of the above. But mechanically, yes, everything is still there. It's all there. You've had it's no different than any other woman who's had a hysterectomy. It's the same procedure. So I mean, yes, you can. Things are going to be different, obviously, because depending on what all was removed. So I'm very blessed that by having stage 1 cancer, I just basically had a typical hysterectomy with the removal of my omentum, which is like a layer of fat that surrounds your abdominal area, and I had my lymph nodes removed for staging. Everything else is still there. I do have a couple of people I know who have had a full spread of their cancer and had to have other things removed. Without being too TMI on here, so I don't get flagged by YouTube, let's just say that a certain thing that is needed to enjoy yourself during the act sometimes has to be removed if the cancer has spread to that area of the body. If it has, then yes, you can. You may not enjoy it, but yes, technically you can. But if that has not been removed, then all still works and you are good to go. And then number 14 is one that is kind of an interesting one. I am an ovarian cancer survivor and I'm having trouble with vaginal atrophy and dryness. Is this something you are also dealing with, and what are you doing to help? So this is one that is more specific to actual ovarian cancer survivors. And yes, so those of you youngins out there who may not be aware of this happens to people in menopause as well, is that, your ovaries produce estrogen, which keeps things lubricated, the body is self-cleaning, and the estrogen helps you produce moisture down there, basically, so that the body self-cleans itself. But when you go through menopause, that goes away. And if you have surgical menopause like we do, it goes away drastically. So the big difference between the menopause that I'm in now and the menopause that normal women go through in regular life is that normal menopause is a gradual process, right? So your body slowly stops producing estrogen over time, and it can take several years to reach that point. Meanwhile, your body is adjusting on its own to the gradual change of your body no longer producing this estrogen. When you have a hysterectomy, like those of us with ovarian cancer have, it is an automatic turn off of the estrogen. So the symptoms are much more abrupt. It happens much more quickly, and the side effects, unfortunately, are also the same way. One of those is if you are dry down there, things will dry up and shrink, quite literally shrink. It's called vaginal atrophy, and it's where everything down there literally dries up and shrivels. And it sounds horrible, and it is if it's not treated. So I ended up with this about a year after my hysterectomy. I didn't know what it was at the time, and I was super embarrassed. And the way I figured out I had it was that everything was so dry that it burned when I went to the bathroom. And if I wiped myself after going to the bathroom, I would have blood from wiping because the skin was so dry, it was cracking and bleeding. So I finally called my doctor and was like, I don't know what's going on down here. And there is medications that you can put on. Now, my cancer is estrogen sensitive. So if you're estrogen sensitive, you can't just go to the store and pick up a cream. For some people, it's not severe and you can just use coconut oil. For some people, you have to have an actual medicine the doctor calls in. There's several over-the-counter things like Replens you can use. I personally use something that is a vaginal suppository that's a combination of vitamin E and coconut oil, and I just stick it on up. It keeps things moisturized. I put it in every day, and things stay moisturized and healthy down there, and that has made a world of difference because I no longer hurt all the time because things are dry and shriveled. Part 2 of the vaginal atrophy is the shrinking of things. So this, again, small ears, no small ears in the room. So if you don't use it, you lose it. I'm not a married person. So one of the things that a lot of doctors will recommend is the use of vaginal dilators because, again, There's a big danger in things closing up down there. One of the side effects is that if things shrink, it can actually drag your bladder down. So they're attached, right? So you have this attached to your bladder, and if it shrinks down, it can drag the bladder down, which then can cause you to have bladder prolapse, which then means you're peeing your pants, and then it can cause your bowel to prolapse, which then cause you to poo your pants. It's not a pleasant thing. So you do, my doctor recommended vaginal dilators. If you are a married person, this may not be an issue for you because, you know, things are being used. But I'm a single person. So these are all things that you have to consider. So yes, vaginal atrophy and dryness is a thing. The one thing I would say to you is if you are an ovarian cancer survivor and this is something you're dealing with, I know it's super awkward and embarrassing and nobody wants to talk about it. I mean, I literally went to roll over and die because my doctor is a man. And I had to be like, hey. And that's super embarrassing. But it's a normal health thing. It comes with cancer. It's not just an ovarian cancer thing. This is something that people with cervical cancer deal with. And this is something that just people going through regular menopause deal with. So don't be embarrassed by it. It is awkward, but I promise you're not the only one. And there are a lot of ovarian cancer support groups online through Facebook that are a great resource for different products you can use that are estrogen free. I love, if you live in Canada, there's a great one called Gynatrof. Love them. They no longer are sold in the US though. So, but I used them for like a year and they're fabulous. But now I'm using the Carlson vaginal suppositories. Replens, some people like. I don't like Replens. It causes me to get an infection. Don't like it. And then if you're going to do coconut oil, make sure you get extra virgin, organic, pesticide and all that stuff free. Coconut oil, for some people that works. For me, it did not, but it may work for you. Those are the 4 things I recommend. So yeah. And that is pretty much all the questions I had. Thank you guys so much for sending these in. There was a lot of really good questions that came in. And I'm really impressed with how many people responded because I thought it'd be like 5 questions and we're done. So thank you guys so much. I will be back to BookTube content on Friday, my normal BookTube content. And I hope everyone's doing well. And thank you guys so much for the support. I will see you in the next video. Bye.